Let's get one thing straight right out of the gate. This isn't just another two guys battling for a QB1 storyline. No, this is a full-blown, slow-motion case study in how NFL politics can override plain, obvious football logic. Because if this battle were purely about on-field production, we wouldn't even be calling it a battle anymore. Shedeur Sanders is not just winning, he's dominating. You don't stumble into a 70% completion rate at an NFL training camp by accident. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. You don't go through 70 pass attempts without a single interception unless you're making smart reads, protecting the football, and keeping your composure when defensive coordinators are dialing up their nastiest blitz looks. 6 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. That's not rookie doing well. That's rookie rewriting expectations. And the wildest part? He's doing it with second-team reps, second-team receivers, second-team pass protection, second-team play calls. And yet, every single drill, every single scrimmage, he's elevating the guys around him. Now, compare that to Dillon Gabriel, the guy still holding the keys to the first-team offense. Completion percentage? Barely 55. Turnovers? 2 interceptions already. Touchdowns? Less than Shedeur despite throwing more passes. And when the pressure's on, when those red zone windows tighten, and you've got less than 3 seconds to make a decision, Shedeur's thriving. 3 of his 6 TDs came right there in those pressure cookers. Gabriel? That's where both of his picks showed up. So why is Gabriel still QB1? That's where this whole thing stops being about football and starts being about the politics of the depth chart. The NFL isn't just a meritocracy. It's an ecosystem of draft investments, veteran contracts, and reputation management. Coaches and front offices hate to admit they were wrong about a guy, especially when they've already sold him to the fan base as the future. If you start a rookie over the guy you've been hyping, you're quietly admitting you misjudged the hierarchy from day one. And that's the elephant in the Browns quarterback room. Gabriel isn't holding on to QB1 because he's outplaying Shedeur. He's holding on to it because the decision-makers haven't yet built an exit ramp from their own commitment to him. But here's where it gets dangerous for Cleveland. The gap between these two isn't subtle anymore. It's not a quiet, let's wait and see situation. It's glaring. Every rep Shedeur gets. He's building a case so strong it's starting to make the coaching staff's hesitancy look deliberate. Fans see it. Media sees it. Former quarterbacks like Dan Orlovsky see it. Calling out Sanders' poise, his NFL-ready ball placement, even comparing him to established starters like Tua Tagovailoa. And let's be real, Orlovsky's not making that comparison just because Shedeur's accurate. He's doing it because Shedeur has the one trait every NFL coach salivates over. He makes the right decision more often than not. He doesn't force throws that aren't there. He doesn't panic and try to play hero ball. He processes, delivers, and moves on to the next snap like he's been in the league for 5 years. That's not normal rookie behavior. Now, here's the crazy part. Even with fewer reps, Shedeur's efficiency is off the charts. In football terms, that means he's not just padding his stats in garbage time. He's making every opportunity count. When you're not getting the same number of chances as your competition, you can't afford wasted plays. And he hasn't been wasting them. Gabriel, on the other hand, is chewing through reps like a volume shooter in basketball who keeps bricking shots but still gets the ball. And yet, the coaching staff keeps feeding him. But this is where the locker room factor comes into play. Because players notice. They're watching those same reps. They're seeing who moves the chains in scrimmages, who leads scoring drives, who keeps their head when the blitz comes. When the guy running with the 2s looks better than the guy running with the 1s, it starts to shift where the locker room's confidence goes. Quarterback battles aren't just decided in the coach's office. They're influenced by the way the team responds to the guy in the huddle. And the Browns' huddle feels different with Shedeur in it. He's not barking orders for respect. He doesn't need to. He calls the play, guys lock in, and you can see the buy-in in their body language. That buy-in doesn't happen by accident, especially for a rookie. It's earned through consistency. It's earned through delivering on exactly what you said you'd do. And it's earned by protecting your teammates, what Shedeur's been doing by avoiding the kind of reckless throws that hang a receiver out to dry. Now, let's talk pressure situations. It's easy to look good in a clean pocket on a 7-on-7 drill. What separates the good from the great is what happens when the defense brings a house, and you've got 1.5 seconds to make a decision. That's where Shedeur's been surgical, sliding in the pocket just enough to buy time, keeping his eyes downfield and hitting his hot reads. Gabriel, he's been flinching. When your internal clock starts screaming, throw it, and you panic, that's when mistakes happen. That's where those red zone interceptions came from. Panic throws into covered windows. And in the NFL, panic gets you benched faster than anything else. And here's the other thing the Browns can't ignore. Perception is reality in this league. If your fan base starts believing one guy is clearly better, sticking with the other guy starts to feel like stubbornness. Every bad Gabriel drive in a preseason game will be met with, "Why isn't Shedeur starting?" Every stalled red zone possession will be followed by, "Shedeur wouldn't have missed that throw." That pressure doesn't just land on Gabriel. It lands on the coaching staff. This is where the politics over performance argument gets legs. Keeping Gabriel at QB1 right now isn't protecting him. It's putting him in a position where every mistake is magnified. Meanwhile, Shedeur's in the perfect spot to play hero. If they keep him on the bench until the inevitable switch, he gets to step in as the savior who turns the season around. But the risk? If you wait too long, you waste the momentum he's already built in camp. Momentum is a currency in football, and right now, Shedeur's value is peaking. The Browns are at a crossroads. They can either ride the guy who's winning on paper, on film, and in the locker room, or they can double down on a depth chart decision that's already looking outdated. And here's the bottom line. If Shedeur Sanders can put up 70% completions, 6 TDs, and 0 turnovers without first-team reps, what happens when you give him the starting offense? What happens when those passes are going on Mari Cooper instead of the scout team's WR3? What happens when his pocket is being held by the actual starting O-line? You think those numbers are good now? They might just explode, which means the real question for the Browns isn't, is Shedeur ready? It's, how much longer can we justify keeping him on the sideline before we start losing the locker room, the fans, and maybe even games we could have won? Because the longer this drags out, the more it stops being about competition, and the more it starts being about stubbornness. First, let's talk about the invisible scoreboard. In camp, coaches will tell you the only scoreboard that matters is on Sunday. That's a nice little coach cliche, until the day-to-day results start painting a picture that's too obvious to ignore. And right now, every unofficial measure, completion percentage, touchdowns, turnovers avoided, third down efficiency, all lean Shedeur. Players see this. They might not be writing it down, but every rep gets logged in the mental notebook. They know who's moving the ball and who's stalling drives. They know who's leaving defenders shaking their heads and who's leaving defensive backs with easy picks. It's not just about highlights. It's about trust. In a real game, when the play breaks down, who do you trust to make the right read? To not force a throw that ends in disaster? The answer is getting clearer by the day. Now, the Browns coaching staff is in a brutal spot. Kevin Stefanski can't just bench Gabriel tomorrow without creating a tidal wave of QB controversy headlines. Coaches hate quarterback controversies because they split locker rooms. They create camps, the Gabriel guys and the Shedeur guys. That division can kill a season before it even starts. But here's the flip side. Letting this play out while Gabriel underwhelms isn't neutral either. Every day the gap widens. The Shedeur guys grow in number. You can't tell a locker room full of professionals that they should buy into the best guy plays while they watch the better performer take second-team reps. That's a culture killer. Then there's the psychology of Gabriel's decline. When you're in a camp battle and the other guy is lighting it up while you're struggling, it doesn't just stay on the field. It follows you into the film room. Every missed read looks bigger. Every incompletion feels heavier. You start pressing. You start thinking about making the big throw instead of just making the right throw. And when a quarterback starts pressing, mistakes multiply. Gabriel's interceptions in red zone drills aren't just bad luck. They're the product of a QB trying too hard to erase the perception that he's falling behind. The irony is, those very mistakes are making the gap wider. Meanwhile, Shedeur is in the perfect headspace. No one's expecting him to win this job, at least not officially. That means he's playing loose. He's confident, but he's not forcing anything because he knows every good rep builds his case. Every ball he puts in the perfect spot is like a silent mic drop to the coaching staff. And here's the kicker. That calm demeanor under pressure, that's contagious. The receivers running with Shedeur are playing looser, too. They're catching with confidence, running their routes, knowing the ball is going to be where it's supposed to be. That chemistry doesn't happen by accident, and it's not something you can just switch on once a guy gets the starting job. From a front office perspective, this is a nightmare wrapped in an opportunity. On one hand, you got a rookie who's proven to be everything you'd hope for and more: efficient, accurate, smart, cool under pressure. That's a gift. On the other hand, the guy ahead of him is the one you've been publicly riding with, the one you've invested more reps in, maybe even more money in. So do you swallow your pride and make the move now? Or do you hope the rookie's momentum somehow slows down before the media storm forces your hand? History shows that teams almost always err on the side of caution. They wait too long. And when they finally make the switch, the season is already teetering. But in this case, waiting too long could backfire twice as hard, because Shedeur's case isn't built on hype. It's built on clear, measurable performance. And let's not ignore the media pressure cooker. Analysts are already pointing out the obvious. Fans are running with it. Social media clips from camp, those deep outs, those laser slants, those red zone TDs, are circulating every single day. And every clip is followed by the same chorus in the comments. Why is he not starting? How is Gabriel still QB1? This is ridiculous. That's not background noise. That's a narrative forming in real time. And once a narrative like that gets rolling, it's almost impossible for a franchise to control it. This isn't just a football decision anymore. It's a brand decision. The Browns are not just choosing between two quarterbacks. They're choosing between two public images. Gabriel represents stability, playing it safe, sticking to the original plan. Shedeur represents change, energy, and a willingness to adapt when reality demands it. One path says, we trust our process more than we trust the results. The other says, we trust what's happening right in front of our eyes. There's also a long-term roster impact to consider. The longer Shedeur stays on the bench while clearly outplaying the starter, the more risk you run of losing him mentally. Sure, he's a rookie now, happy to grind and prove himself. But quarterbacks are wired to compete, not to sit behind lesser production. If you mishandle that, you risk planting the seeds of frustration, and frustrated quarterbacks don't stick around forever. Here's where this gets even more interesting. The Browns' defense knows exactly what's happening. Myles Garrett isn't dumb. That defensive unit has gone up against both guys in practice. They know who's tougher to defend. They know which quarterback makes them respect every single route. And defensive players talk. They don't have to lobby the coaches. They just have to let that knowledge leak into casual conversations. And before long, the energy in the building starts shifting. The Panthers' joint practice only magnified this. Shedeur didn't just survive against a different team's first-team defense. He thrived. That's the kind of performance that makes everyone take a second look. Because lighting up your own defense in camp, that can be dismissed as familiarity. Lighting up someone else's starters, that travels. Gabriel, meanwhile, is losing control of the narrative. In today's NFL, perception can flip in a week, and right now, the perception is that he's holding on to a job he hasn't earned. That's dangerous territory for any QB. Because once the public decides you're overpromoted, every mistake becomes proof they were right. And this is where I think the Browns may have to make a decision sooner than they'd like. Because if Shedeur gets even one preseason game with first-team reps and the results look anything like what he's been doing in camp, the coaches will have no more cover. The fans will demand the change. The media will demand the change. Even the locker room will demand the change, not out loud, but in the way they lean into Shedeur's leadership. This battle started as a quiet, internal evaluation. Now it's a living, breathing storyline that's building its own momentum. And unless Gabriel pulls off a dramatic turnaround, This doesn't end with Shedeur sitting in week 1. It ends with the Browns doing what everyone outside the facility already knows they should do, handing the ball to a guy who's been winning the job since the first day of camp. Dillon Gabriel represents what coaches and GMs like to call the safe option. He's been with the first team. He's been in the building longer. He's been given the starters reps. And there's a belief, mostly among the old school types, that stability is more important than upside. That if you just let the incumbent keep his spot, the team will have fewer distractions. But here's the flaw in that thinking. Stability only matters if it's helping you win. And right now, Gabriel isn't just underperforming compared to Shedeur. He's dragging the offense into quicksand. Wide receivers aren't getting hit in stride. The red zone execution is stalling, and the energy when Gabriel's under center is flat. NFL players feel that kind of thing in their bones. They know when the guy leading them isn't going to light up the scoreboard. And once they know, it's hard to fake belief. The silent shift in the locker room. One of the most underrated parts of this story is how locker room dynamics change when one quarterback consistently outperforms another in camp. At first, veterans keep it professional. No one wants to be that guy who openly stirs the pot. But over time, little cracks appear. A receiver might linger a little longer after practice to get extra throws in with Shedeur. An offensive lineman might joke about how much easier it is to pass block when the QB gets rid of the ball quickly. Even defensive guys, who are supposed to root for chaos on offense during camp, start dropping hints about who's harder to sack or pick off. None of this goes into a press conference. It doesn't need to. Once those subtle shifts start happening, a team's gravitational pull toward the better performer becomes inevitable. Why Shedeur's style is built for today's NFL. One of the main reasons Shedeur's camp buzz has been impossible to ignore is that his game fits exactly where the league is going. In today's NFL, a quarterback has to be more than a big arm. You need quick processing, accuracy on short and intermediate throws, the ability to extend plays without panicking, and, this is huge, the mental toughness to bounce back instantly from a bad series. Shedeur checks every one of those boxes. His 70% completion rate in camp isn't just a stat. It's proof that he's operating with a calm, calculated mindset. He's not spraying deep balls for the sake of impressing people. He's surgically moving the ball, playing chess while defenses try to play checkers. Gabriel, on the other hand, still looks like he's forcing his game into an NFL mold instead of already living in it. His decision-making speed isn't matching the defensive speed. He hesitates. Defenders recover, and the window slams shut. The red zone reality check. If you really want to separate quarterbacks, watch them in the red zone. That's where everything tightens. The throws, the coverage, the pressure. Mistakes down there cost games. Shedeur? 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, moving safeties with his eyes like a 10-year vet. Gabriel? 2 interceptions in red zone drills alone, and both weren't just good defensive plays. They were avoidable mistakes born out of panic. This is the stuff that keeps coaches up at night. You can teach a QB a new read or tweak his mechanics, but it's nearly impossible to coach away panic. The fan factor. And then there's the elephant in the room. Fans aren't blind. They're seeing the same camp reports, the same practice highlights, the same disparity in performance. When Shedeur rips a sideline throw between 2 defenders in a joint practice, it's all over social media in minutes. When Gabriel throws a pick in a red zone, it might not make ESPN, but it definitely makes the rounds in Browns fan groups. The more the public leans Shedeur's way, the more pressure builds on the coaching staff. Because while no NFL team will ever admit they make depth chart decisions based on fan sentiment, they do care about optics. And the optics of starting the lesser-performing QB are brutal. The business side, the team won't admit. Here's the quiet part nobody inside the Browns wants to say out loud. Shedeur isn't just outperforming Gabriel on the field. He's outperforming him at the merch table. Every Sanders practice highlight spikes jersey sales. Every media appearance pulls more national attention to the Browns than Gabriel ever could. In the modern NFL, marketability is currency. And if 2 quarterbacks are close in ability, or in this case, not close at all, the guy who fills more seats and sells more jerseys will always have the edge, even if the coaches pretend that's not part of the conversation. Coaching pride versus competitive reality. The Browns coaching staff is facing a classic NFL pride problem. Coaches love their systems, their processes, their trust-the-plan mentality. And when a rookie comes in and starts dismantling that plan just by being undeniably better, it forces him into a crossroads. Do you admit that the original plan was wrong? Or do you double down and hope the rookie cools off before you have to explain why he's not starting? This is where great organizations separate themselves from mediocre ones. The great teams aren't afraid to pivot when the evidence is overwhelming. The mediocre ones let politics and pride waste half a season before doing what should have been done in week 1. The danger of waiting too long. Every day, Shedeur continues to outplay Gabriel without getting first-team reps. The Browns run the risk of making the situation worse. If they wait too long, they'll face one of two ugly scenarios. They bench Gabriel mid-season, essentially admitting they cost themselves wins by sticking with him. They never make the switch. Shedeur gets frustrated, and by the offseason, he's quietly looking for a team that will actually believe in him. Neither is a good outcome for a franchise that's desperate to stabilize its quarterback position, the upcoming flashpoint. This all comes to a head the moment Shedeur gets extended first-team action in a preseason game. Right now, Gabriel's status as QB1 is being protected by practice reps and depth chart politics. But the second Shedeur steps into a live game with the starters and moves the ball better than Gabriel ever has, that's it. The conversation shifts from why isn't he starting to when are you naming him the starter? And once that conversation shifts, there's no going back. Why this isn't just about the Browns. One of the reasons this story matters beyond Cleveland is that it's a microcosm of a larger trend in the NFL. More and more, rookie quarterbacks are coming in ready to play mentally and physically. The old-school approach of let the kid sit for a year or two is getting harder to justify when they're clearly outperforming the veterans in camp. If Shedeur forces his way into the starting job, it'll be another data point in the case against holding back young talent. Other franchises will take note. Agents will take note. And rookies coming into the league will know that if they perform, they can push the depth chart faster than ever. The bottom line, Shedeur Sanders hasn't just won the camp stat battle. He's won the eye test, the confidence test, and the leadership test. The only thing standing between him and the starting job is the Browns' willingness to acknowledge reality. And the truth is, the longer they resist, the more obvious it becomes that this is about pride and politics, not performance.